Hey, this is a very outdated reaction because I was streaming a lot and not uploading anything to YouTube. So keep in mind that my opinion might change already, or this topic is just not relevant anymore. Now on to the video. This is, I guess, a summary of the complete history of the Israel-Palestinian conflict explained. 1897 to 2024. I was kind of aware that was going on for a long time. Not that much time though. I don't want to say something wrong here. I do probably. Whatever. Let's watch it.
The Israeli-Palestinian conflict did not begin thousands of years ago. It began in its modern form in the late 19th century, when two nationalist movements began to lay claim to the same land. One was Zionism, a Jewish nationalist movement born in Europe in the late 1800s.
Dude, give me more than 2 frames on the finished word. Zionism, a movement for originally the re-establishment of the it's a Jewish specific ism. Okay. Nation in Palestine, and now the development and protection of Israel. It was established as a political organization in 1897 under Theodor Herzl and was later led by Chaim Weizmann. Okay. So I stay grounded on religion. That's a bad idea in the first place.
A Jewish nationalist movement born in Europe in the late 1800s amid waves of anti-Semitism, pogroms and exclusion. Led by figures like Theodor Herzl, Zionists believed the Jewish people needed a state of their own, and many pointed to Palestine, then part of the Ottoman Empire, as...
Do I need to open a map next to that, because I barely know where all this is? There in the bottom, Israel. Isn't that like the Jesus... The Jerusalem, the Jesus thingy. That's why Jews wanted to go there. Aha. So let's make a little understanding here. The whole Israel, and where is Palestine? Oh no, that is not really a place, right? That's the whole thing. I have a rough understanding where it is now. I wonder if anything else is important here.
Zionists believed the Jewish people needed a state of their own, and
Jewish people needed a state of their own.
many pointed to Palestine, then part of the Ottoman Empire, as the ancestral and rightful homeland. The other was emerging Palestinian nationalism, shaped by centuries of Arab and Islamic history, and by increasing awareness that foreign powers, including Zionist settlers and European empires, sought control over their land. At the time, Palestine was home to roughly 500,000 people, 90% of whom were Arab Muslims and Christians, and about...
Wasn't the whole point of Palestine to be Jews?
10% were Jews, many of them local and religiously observant, not nationalist in outlook. In the 1880s, European Zionists began immigrating and buying land, often displacing Arab tenant farmers. From 1882 to 1914, tens of thousands of Jews arrived in waves of migration known as Aliyot, while some Palestinian Arabs...
Why give it a name? Was it such a big thing? Wait. How many?
Tens of thousands of Jews arrived in waves of migration, known...
Tens of thousands. I mean, back in the days, that was probably quite a lot.
While some Palestinian Arabs welcomed them as neighbors, others began to resist what they saw as a colonial settler movement. During this time, the Ottoman Empire was in decline, and World War I reshaped the Middle East. Britain, seeking Arab support against the Ottomans.
Who the heck are
Arab support against the
Ottoman? There are so many words that I never heard before. Ottoman. An Ottoman is a piece of furniture, sure. During the Ottoman era, Palestine was a geographical term for a region, not a single administrative unit. It was a historical area divided among various Ottoman provinces. Now, is it a place or a person? Or multiple people?
decline, and World War I reshaped the Middle East. Britain, seeking Arab support against the Ottomans, made conflicting promises. To the Arabs, it promised independence after the war. To the Zionists, it promised a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine, the Balfour Declaration of 1917. These contradictions planted the seeds of future violence. The Palestinians were never consulted. They didn't believe their homeland was Britain's to give away. When these contradictions planted the seeds of future violence, the Palestinians were never consulted. They didn't believe their homeland was Britain's to give away. When British and Zionist officials entered Jerusalem in 1917, Palestinian resistance was still largely political, but it was clear that two groups, Zionist Jews and native Palestinian Arabs, had begun a zero-sum conflict over land, identity, and sovereignty. The global powers had redrawn borders. The people in Palestine had no say. After World War I, the League of Nations granted Britain a mandate to govern Palestine. The British Mandate, which began in 1922, marked a critical turning point. Jewish immigration accelerated under British protection, and Zionist institutions were formalized. Palestinians, who had hoped for independence, found themselves under foreign rule and facing a growing settler population backed by imperial powers. The 1920s.
It's Israel. And in Israel, there is the area that's called Palestinian area. It's not a state or anything, it's just an area. And people wanting to be in Palestine because they think they have the right to be there because they are Jews or something.
Turning point. Jewish immigration accelerated under British protection, and Zionist institutions were formalized. Palestinians, who had hoped for independence, found themselves under foreign rule and facing a growing settler population backed by imperial powers. The 1920s and 30s were marked by tension and bloodshed. In 1920 and 1929, violent riots broke out in Jerusalem and Hebron, resulting in deaths on both sides. The cause: growing anxiety over land purchases, immigration, and access to religious sites.
Okay, I don't know why people get anxious from those rules unless the news is inflicting fear in them again.
In 1936, Palestinians launched a national uprising, the Arab Revolt, demanding independence and an end to mass Jewish immigration. It lasted 3 years and was brutally crushed by the British. Thousands of
There is Israel wants to stop immigration. Am I reading that right?
Palestinians were killed, homes were demolished, and entire communities were disarmed. Meanwhile, global Jewish immigration surged, especially as Jews fled Nazi Europe. By the late 1930s, Jews made up around 30% of Palestine's population. Zionist paramilitaries like the Haganah, Irgun, and Lehi grew in power. The Holocaust intensified calls for a Jewish state. Zionist leaders lobbied Britain and the United States to open Palestine to survivors. Palestinians opposed the idea, believing it would lead to permanent displacement. In 1947, the United Nations proposed partitioning Palestine into 2 states, one Jewish, one Arab.
Palestine, plan of partition. So the Palestinians proposed to split the land between Palestine, I assume, or Jewish state and Arab state. But Israel did not want to do that. Okay. How was it before? I assume all of the orange and the blue area was the same.
With Jerusalem under international control, Jews accepted the plan. Palestinians and Arab states rejected it.
Okay, no, never mind. It's the other way around. Palestinians rejected this plan. Well, that's so much information in such
At the
a
time,
short amount
Jews
of time.
owned less than 7% of the land, but were allocated over half of it. Civil war broke out between Jewish and Arab militias before the British even left. Violence spread across cities like Jaffa, Haifa, and Jerusalem. The foundations of the modern conflict had been laid. 2 peoples, 2 visions, 1 land. On May 14, 1940.
Wait, what? Why does the voice change all of a sudden?
As the British withdrew, David Ben-Gurion declared the establishment of the State of Israel. The following day, 5 Arab states invaded, marking the beginning of the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. For Israelis, this was a war of independence. For Palestinians, it marked the Nakba, the catastrophe. During the fighting, over 750,000 Palestinians were expelled or fled their homes. More than 400 towns and villages were depopulated, many permanently destroyed. Israel emerged victorious and expanded its territory to 78% of historic Palestine.
I cannot read shit on this map. Dude, give me a higher resolution, but whatever. It was Palestine in the first place. Then it got more Israel over time. Palestine was the land of everyone, and Israel is the land of the Jews, or is it the other way around?
More than what the UN partition plan had proposed. Jordan annexed the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. Egypt took control of Gaza. No Palestinian state was created. Refugees were barred from returning. Israel passed laws seizing abandoned Palestinian land. Camps filled with displaced families appeared across Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, and Gaza, many of which still exist today. Inside Israel, around 150,000 Palestinians remained. They were placed under martial law until 1966, denied basic civil rights. In 1956, Israel invaded Egypt during the Suez Crisis with Britain and France. Though militarily successful, international pressure forced a withdrawal. The conflict remained unresolved. Arab states refused to recognize Israel. Palestinian refugees remained stateless. Armed groups began forming with the aim of reclaiming lost land. But the next major turning point came in 1967, during the Six-Day War. In June 1967, Israel launched a preemptive war against Egypt, Syria, and Jordan. In just 6 days, it captured the West Bank, East Jerusalem, Gaza Strip, Golan Heights, and Sinai Peninsula.
What is so special about the Gaza Strip? Is it just where many people live? I guess it's like a town on the ocean.
The occupation of Palestinian territories began and continues to this day. The United Nations passed Resolution 242, calling for Israel's withdrawal from occupied territories in exchange for peace, but that never fully materialized. In the years that followed, Israel built settlements across the West Bank and East Jerusalem, considered illegal under international law.
Building settlements, like homes and stuff. Why is it illegal to build houses under international law? I don't get it. Whatever.
Palestinians lived under military rule, subject to curfews, home demolitions, checkpoints, and land confiscations. The Palestinian Liberation Organization, PLO,
Settlements Day means they took Palestinians and forced them in houses, separate from Jews. Oh. Yeah, forcing people into houses is not great.
points and land confiscations. The Palestinian Liberation Organization, PLO, led by Yasser Arafat, became the main voice of Palestinian nationalism. Though initially focused on armed struggle, the PLO gradually gained international legitimacy and observer status at the UN. In 1987, after decades of occupation and growing despair,
I see. So if they force people to live in a certain area, it's easier for them to control those people too. Kinda makes sense. But yeah, it's highly morally questionable.
erupted. This was a mass, largely unarmed uprising. Palestinians boycotted Israeli goods, staged demonstrations, and refused to cooperate with occupation authorities. The Israeli military responded with force, rubber bullets, live ammunition, and mass arrests. The world began to see the human cost of occupation more clearly. The First Intifada eventually led to negotiations. In 1993, after secret talks in Oslo, Norway, the PLO and Israel signed the Oslo Accords. It was a moment of hope, mutual recognition, and the promise of a two-state solution. But Oslo left major issues unresolved: settlements, refugees, Jerusalem, and borders. And as the years passed, the peace process began to unravel. In 2000, peace talks collapsed at Camp David. No agreement was reached on core issues, especially the fate of Jerusalem, refugees, and settlements. Days later, Israeli opposition leader Ariel Sharon visited the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. The move was seen as a provocation. Protests erupted. The Second Intifada began. This uprising was far more violent than the first. Palestinian groups launched suicide bombings. Israel reoccupied much of the West Bank, destroyed infrastructure, and built the separation barrier. Thousands of civilians died on both sides. In 2005, Israel unilaterally withdrew from Gaza, removing settlers but maintaining control of airspace, borders, and access. A year later, Hamas won elections. After a brief civil conflict with
Who the heck is Hamas? Did I miss something again?
launched suicide bombings. Israel reoccupied much of the West Bank, destroyed infrastructure, and built the separation barrier. Thousands of civilians died on both sides. In 2005, Israel unilaterally withdrew from Gaza, removing settlers but maintaining control of airspace, borders, and access. A year later, Hamas won elections. After a brief civil conflict with Fatah, Hamas took control of Gaza. Israel and Egypt imposed a blockade, severely limiting movement and goods. Electricity, medicine, building materials, all restricted. Gaza became an open-air prison. Periodic wars.
That's why the Gaza Strip is such a hot topic. I understand. I start to understand. They make it like, oh, here, live there. But actually, it's a huge area where they have massive control over them because they can restrict anything. Israel genocide fanboys will tell you, but they elected Hamas. What the fuck? Wow. The Germans also at some point elected Hitler. Duh. Not even 20% of the people voted in that election. That's a low number, first of all. Second of all, but even if that's the case, doesn't mean it's a good thing. What do you think happens if you occupy and suppress a population of for decades? They'll be angry, I guess.
In 2008, 2009, 2012, 2014, and 2021. Meanwhile, settlement expansion in the West Bank accelerated. Over 700,000 Israelis now live beyond the 1967 Green Line.
What the heck is the Green Line? Is this like a line separating the mainland from the Gaza Strip? I think Israel is the #1 ally of the United States. The US load Israel with money and weapons. Wow, yeah, I was about to ask why. Why would the US do that? What do they benefit from Israel? Israel fights the Arab for them. And 2, Israel pays US politicians a shit ton. It's corruption again. Dun, dun, dun. Money is the problem of the cause of so many problems. AIPAC is a huge Israel lobby in the United States. I never heard of AIPAC. I think
Palestinian Authority lost credibility. Peace talks froze. The idea of a two-state solution faded. A younger generation of Palestinians grew up knowing only checkpoints, sieges, and military raids. In Israel, public opinion shifted rightward. Leaders vowed never to give up full control of Jerusalem or remove major settlements.
Now, is Israel a dictatorship now, or is it still a democracy? Sounds very dictatorship-ish.
Hamas, despite international isolation, remained in power. Rockets and airstrikes became routine. Casualties mounted. The status quo held, but only barely. Then came 2023. In October 2023, Hamas launched an unprecedented attack on Israeli territory, killing civilians and taking hostages. It was the deadliest day in Israel's history. The response was immediate and devastating. Israel launched a massive military campaign in Gaza. Entire neighborhoods were leveled. Hospitals, schools, and refugee camps were bombed. Thousands of Palestinians were killed, including children. Water and electricity were cut off. Humanitarian agencies warned of famine and mass displacement. For Israelis, it was a moment of national trauma. For Palestinians, it was yet another chapter in a long history of...
This is the conflict right now that is always in the news. 65,000 Palestinians have been murdered. Holy shit. That's only the documented ones. That's crazy. Look at them. They are on a truck ready to be executed or somewhere. Not even executed. Thrown into a death pit of suffering. When the opinion was strong, Israel was afraid. So guess what they did? They suppressed PLO. What was PLO again? I don't remember all those letters all the time. They let the Hezbollah, another terrorist group from Lebanon, weaponize Hamas. So send weapons in there through Israeli. Oh gosh. What sane person would ever say, yeah, let's do that?
The world reacted with protest and polarization. Western governments largely supported Israel's right to defend itself. Much of the global south condemned the siege and called for a ceasefire. On college campuses and in the streets, people took sides. Yet at the core of the crisis were the same unresolved issues: occupation, statelessness, security, and human rights. The conflict had entered a new, bloodier phase, but its roots were old. Today, most Palestinians still live under occupation, in exile, or behind blockades. Most Israelis still live with the fear of rockets, war, and regional isolation. Trust is shattered. Extremism grows. The peace process is dead. But the fight for justice continues in courtrooms, protests, and international forums. Activists, survivors, scholars, and ordinary people are still trying to imagine a future where both peoples can live in dignity. This is not just a regional conflict. It's a test of humanity's ability to resolve injustice without domination. The outcome is not yet written, but history demands that we understand how we got here. Thank you for watching.
Okay. Hamas would not exist if Israel didn't exist. Mainstream media always says, oh, we need a two-state solution. So both a state of Israel and a state of Palestine. I don't think that would solve anything. Israel would still attack if it were a two-state situation at this point. They don't even plan on letting go of occupation. Yeah, exactly. And point number 2 is there is still the religion split. So if which side are the Jews? The Israelis, right? So the Jews are the Israels, and all the other religions are the Palestines. And the whole, why is it Israel on Google Maps then, if it was originally all Palestine? Just because Israel took it, where did Palestine go? Those people don't have a place anymore. That is messed up. Shit. And we all supported it for a century. Yeah, that's literally 100 years now. Yeah, 120 years. I don't know why the USA is helping their stupid corrupt politicians. It's such a fucking messed up world. In any European country is the same until just recently, thanks to mass protest. Well, I had no opinion because I had no knowledge, because I don't really watch any sort of news. What we need in the Middle East is secularism. The action or process of converting something from religious to secular possession or use. Aha.